Hello everyone, it's Kat and I'm back today with another Glaminatrix palette review. This was a bit of a surprise. This one launched I think it was last week, and it was quite close to their more recent palette, which I also did a review on. This is the Grounded palette, also known as Tones of Turd, whichever one you wanted to get with that one. I will compare these at the end because there are some sort of similar themes to them. So if you wanted to see a comparison, that will be happening in the conclusion. But this is the new Bonfire palette. It's a little bit different in format to some of the past palettes we've seen. They've brought back that long palette. So we've got here 12 shades. It also has a little groove so you can pull the pans out, which I like. Glaminatrix always has magnetic pans so you can take them out, but these grooves mean that it's easier to do that without like a magnet or a tool. I do remember them on Instagram polling people to see if they want them back, so that's maybe why this is back. But this palette is a really beautiful, what I would say like maybe autumn themed palette, which is funny because it's autumn nowhere in the world at the moment, but hey, makeup doesn't have to be seasonal. Now, Bonfire palette, it's got this beautiful bright orange packaging. I love this. It's got the gold, it's got the sort of fire imprint on it. It's really beautiful, and this is supposed to be inspired by obviously bonfires. You've got some sort of like foresty outdoor green shades. You've got the fire itself, so the reds and the oranges, and then you have what would be like, I guess, the earth or even like the ash of the fire. So I understand the theme here. Now this palette is already available. It was released about a week ago. So I'll have a link in the description box as well as my code if you want 10% off. But what I'm going to do today is show you swatches and wait for them because they are stunning. I'm also going to do looks using all the shades. Obviously the one I'm using here is the green. So I've got that on today and I'll show you a zoom in. And then ultimately I'll conclude what I think about this palette after using it solidly for about a week. So I want to show you a close-up of the palette just before we get into swatches. I want to point out these are 26mm magnetic pans. This contains 6 velvety mattes and a mixture of iridescence, shimmers, duochromes, and multichromes. So it's a 50-50 split with shimmers and mattes, which I do like. Now the duochromes or multichromes are really fun. I will actually show you some footage of the shift as well because what you see straight on is quite different from what you see on the side. Now let's get into swatches. Okay, time to swatch this baby, and the only sensible way I think to swatch it is in quads. So I'm going to go this, that. These don't feel as delicate as the Tones of Turd or Grounded palette, but we'll see how they go. I'm so excited for this red one. That's amazing. I'm going to start with Kindling, which is that iridescent one. This is gorgeous. It has a bit of a bluey sort of base to it, but then it's got this gold, well, yellow shimmer on the side. Really, really pretty. These are beautiful one and done. So if I just put this here and give it a bit of a, like this, that's so beautiful just for an everyday sort of shimmer on the eye. I love them. I think it's gorgeous. Dark green. You know I love me a dark green. Out of focus. Good one, me. This one's called Evergreen. This is Pine. Look at that. That looks like a jewel beetle. Like it's so smooth and gorgeous. And this one's Embers. So Pine is another matte. I love these colors. These chartreusey, greeny, mucky colors. It's delicious. This I love. So you're seeing grass green on my angle, which again, I'll show you later. Phone swatches. This is a gorgeous, like, emerald, which is one of my favorite colors of all time, so I am excited. See what you're seeing here down here is essentially what I'm seeing from the side. So this is delicious. Wildfire is this sort of chunky gold orange, so it's like an orange base with like a gold shimmer through it. Again, this could be one that you apply quite sheerly to get like a little bit of a dispersed orangey peachy gold look, which is really pretty. Bonfire is this gorgeous red. Oh, that is delicious. Again, like this, I just want to eat this palette for some reason. I just want to lick the shades. These two are my most excited ones because I don't have many shades like this in my collection. I've got Inferno, which is that bright orange. I am actually such an orange fan. It doesn't really suit me so much with eyeshadow, but I love orange in general. And Blaze, you can see it catching red, but I can see it as being more orange in my angle. So this is going to depend on the light. Oh, this is just like my nail polish. It's got a little bit of a purpley base to it and this beautiful sort of red shimmer to it. So this one's really interesting. I want to use this one first. This is the one that I think is most unique out of the palette from my collection anyway. And it's one that I just want to get in there. I just want to show you the base color of that. So it's a bit purple. So what I do is after each swatch, I just wipe my finger and then dry it. So that is the purple base of Blaze, which is gorgeous. These are really pigmented. So Cinder is this sort of gray, very cool toned. It's got a bit of a blue shimmer to it, but it's a bit chunky. So it's, oh my God, that is so pretty. It has very little base color, but it's just this beautiful shimmery, and look how much I still have on my finger. So that goes really far. So this is a bit of a chunky one. You want to be a bit delicate with it, but it is really, really beautiful. And you can see how different it is to this one here, which has more of that sort of goldy vibe. This is more cool toned. Really, really beautiful. And the amount of silver shimmer in there, like it just didn't want to get off my finger. It's there, and over here. So really, really pigmented. Smoke is a very soft matte, so just be really careful picking it up. It's one of those ones that easy to pick up, but also really easy to get a bit messy. So just be careful of that. So that is this one here. I'm just trying to be a bit gentle, just tapping it. But it's a very beautiful, I love this tone of brown. It's like a cool tone, but it's almost got a mauvey element to it, which is really lovely. I've still got silver all over my finger from this one. Last two, Ashes, which is a little bit more olive toned than that one, but I love it. And Smolder, which has that sort of MAC blue brown pigment vibe to it. So it's got this burgundy base, which would go really nicely with these. But it's got this sort of what looks like green in your angle, but in my angle, a blue shimmer to it. So all of these are so fun. Okay, I think this is the best way to show it. And you can see how they are very different color stories, but there's ways that they can work well together. This bridges the gap with that one. This bridges the gap with these. Like you can kind of see how they would work really nicely together. And what I'll do is on the screen, I'll have some phone footage where you can see it from an angle. So you can see that this one is a little bit more bluey purple. This one has a little bit more orange to it. And this one is this vibrant emerald green, which I love. Look how beautiful. It's like, oh, I just want to like smear you on my face. Okay, I have some Natasha Denona primer on my eyes. I am going to have a bit of a mixed look because I just want to use the shades that I want to use. This I want to use, this I want to use, that I want to use, traffic lights, greenies go, let's do it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and do individual looks and I'll just show you the final look using each quad. So I want to see how these mix together and I just want to play with the shades that I think are most exciting. Okay, I'm going to start with one of the Glaminatrix eyeshadow brushes. This is the EO1. I'm just going to say I highly recommend their brushes. If you're after brushes and you're going to place an order, like check out the brushes. I am not going to use them all today because they're dirty because I use them a lot and I took them away with me last week, but I'm just picking up a little bit of this shade just to sort of put in the crease a little bit, just to, I don't know, I just want to have a little bit of a base down so I can really focus on the shimmers in a sec. So this is a beautiful sort of shadow. Let's zoom in. This is a beautiful sort of cool toned, real true shadow. All right, I want to start with this one. It looks like I've just got like fiery coals on my brush. So this is Blaze and I'm just tapping it on. Now I wanted to start with this one because I want to see what it looks like blended out. To me, it's very much like this nail polish that has a bit of a purple sort of jelly base and then this beautiful sort of fiery red to it. This was a bit similar to one they had in a recent palette. I might do swatches at the end. It had a deeper purple base and less of a vibrant red shimmer, but I feel like they will go beautifully together. So that was from the Grounded palette, which again, I'll do a comparison in the conclusion of this when I had a bit more of a play, but this is beautiful. So this is just a lot brighter. Oh, that is so fun. Red, oh, and if you layered the red with that and you just had this beautiful sort of smoky red eye, stunning, stunning, stunning. Now what I want to do, I'm going to pop a little bit of the orange just almost as a transition between the two colors. It's going to be a bit rough at the moment, but let's just see how it goes. Now with Embers, and again you can see that that's like a grass green there, but if I put it on, I don't know what you're going to see because it does sort of change. This almost looks like an autumn rainbow just because of the color shift. Super pigmented. So again, these are quite easy to pick up with your brush. You don't need to use your finger to pick some of these up. I think some of the chunkier sort of more sparkly shimmers like Cinder, that silvery one, it'll benefit from picking up on your finger. but this one applies really nicely with the brush. I'm going to pick up a little bit of Blaze just on my finger just to see how intense this can get when you do apply it with your finger. So if you do have, I don't want to blend the lid too much, but I sort of do want it to work a little bit cohesively. So I'm just going to blend a little bit of that orange together. I just wanted something that sort of joined the two, since going from red to green, you can sort of get a brown effect. So I thought having that transition orange might work really nicely. Oh, I kind of want to put green in the crease there. I'm going in with a little bit of pine on my fluffy brush, and I'm just putting it in the outer corner. I don't want it to get into the red territory, but I do want it to sort of help with that green blend. Now going in with Evergreen, which is that darker green. Again, just really, really soft, just to sort of customize that green look. Now with a clean fluffy, I'm just going to blend that out a bit better. With a pencil brush, look how neon that is. I'm just running that down on my lower lash line, because again, this orange really excites me. It's a color I don't use often. It's a color I really love. And not many people put it in palettes because I feel like it's a bit of a scary color for people. I feel like I'm starting to look like a parrot, but that's okay. I am going to, again, just build up the green a little bit because I feel like I blended some of that effect away and I want that multi-chrome sort of beautifulness there. I'm just patting my finger really gently on the pan because these are really pigmented. You don't need to like scrub your finger in the pan to pick it up. This is just like tap, tap, tap. And I want something on the inner corner, but I don't want more color. I'm gonna go with this one here, which has that sort of silveriness to it. A little bit harder to pick up, a little bit chunky, but I think it's gonna be worth it. Let's just, yeah, so you gotta be careful, a little bit of fallout. It's giving this sort of like little bit of just wet look effect. I know that probably on camera it just looks like sparkle, but it almost, because it has that translucent base, almost looks like you put like a twinkly gloss or something on your eye. A little bit of a messier shadow, so it does tend to like spread a little bit. All right, this is not really working so well. I put some black on my waterline, which I don't think is a great idea. I've taken some of that really dark gray matte, just a tiny bit because it's really pigmented, just to blend that out a little bit and just like that sharp distinction between the liner and the orange, just diffuse that a bit. Okay, that's a look grounded with some mascara, some black liner. I've also darkened my brows a little bit because I find that sometimes when my eyes are really bold, my eyebrows disappear a little bit. But yeah, I think this is fun. I wouldn't necessarily recommend following this as a tutorial because I think this look is a bit bold, but you can see how you can take colors from different parts of the palette and they do work nicely together. I think the grays are really good at sort of grounding some of this. So I think without that gray on the lash line, it would be a bit much, but I think it's really pretty. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you in different lighting. Okay, I'm just facing the window at the moment. So that's what it's looking like when it's sort of diffused light, like because we're overcast today, so it's not like direct sunlight. But you can see when you do turn, there's different things getting emphasized. So the red is getting emphasized. It's more grass green here. The more you turn, the more it becomes like an emerald. And if I turn around this way, you can see that this tends to go a little bit more orange. It's probably harder to see. Picks up a little bit more orange, and this looks a lot more emerald green rather than the grass green. So depending on, like I'll do this, hang on. Depending on where you're moving, how it's catching the light, they perform really differently, which is really cool. All right, time for my conclusion after using this palette for a good week. Now, my goal was to do a look using each quad, and I was going to do an additional 3 looks. It didn't work out that way because I found that I wanted to create sort of looks that I would comfortably wear during the day. And I found like if I did one using all of this, it was a bit much. I do have a look on at the moment using these 3. It is a bit much. I would probably still wear it, but maybe modified slightly. And then I found that this shade, even though I thought this was just going to be like your standard gray quad, even though I knew better from swatching it, this one turned out to be so different on the eye that I sort of had different plans. So I'm going to show you the looks that I've created and then tell you what I think overall about this palette. So the look that I'm wearing today, I'm using these 3 greens. I didn't delve into that one because I didn't feel like I needed to. It was going to be too much. Now, this is the only look I've created that I've got lashes on for. Now, I did actually film a little bit of this look before I put the lashes on so you can see what it looks like without the lashes. I just found that because I don't have black liner or a dark liner on, it looked like it needed a bit of grounding. So that's why I put the lashes on, especially because I've got a bit of filming to do today. I do want to highlight something that happens with some of these shadows is that I get a bit of transferring on my crease, and that's because I've got hooded eyes. So when I'm resting my eyes are like this, and obviously if I've got color there, it picks up. Now that is something to do with my eyes. If you do have hooded eyes, these are very pigmented, so they can transfer a little bit. Some tips on avoiding it, you can maybe put some set this with a sort of setting powder. I don't mind too much, but sometimes if I look in the mirror, I'll just give it a bit of a rub. But that is something that tends to happen with bold shadows. It is what it is. What I've done today is I have taken this shade, I've put it all over the lid, the top lid. I've taken this shade and I've put it on the lower lash line. I put some sort of aqua color in my waterline with a pencil. But you can see that I blended that out really softly. You can see it's a very cool toned green compared to this one. I really wanted to see the comparison. So if you blend this out, it almost looks like a turquoise green. Obviously you could build it up. Then I took this shade here, which is that shifty, beautiful shade. I love this. Look at that. That's stunning. I actually used it as a liner and I sort of winged it out. I wanted something different than it just being all over the lid because that's what I've done a lot with these looks. And then I took the dark green matte and I sort of lined the top of it. So I almost did like a cut crease, but just for the liner. It's a bit weird. Over the past week, I also created a smoky red eye. Now it's like a berry. These two combined are really beautiful. This shade I think is so fun. So if you buff it out, it's got a bit of a purple base to it. It's got this beautiful red sort of sheen to it, and you can build that up to make it more red, or you can buff it out more and it makes it more like this. It just catches the light. It's like twinkle red. It's really pretty. I actually used that with these two to sort of neutralize it a little bit. I also did a look that was quite red toned. I used this one all over the lid, quite packed on heavily. Now if you do apply it quite lightly, it looks a little bit more subtle, but if you do apply it quite heavily, it actually does have this burgundy base to it when it's built up. So I actually lent into that and used some of this red again to blend it out. It was quite a bold look, but it's a really pretty combo. So those two work really, really nicely together. I did do a look with this shade. Now this is like a almost like a translucent base with this twinkly sort of gray, silvery shimmer, which is really pretty. I did do that as just a look all over the lid. I think I used a little bit of gray, whether it was this gray or that gray, I don't remember. And then what I did to build on that was I added the oranges, which was really fun. This orange is super intense, really fun, matte, like safety vest orange. And then this one, if you apply it quite sheerly, it just gives this sort of yellowy gold shimmer effect. So I didn't use this one heavily. I used it more as like a highlight accent. I actually think this one's a really fun shade because it is so punchy. And I think if I was going to put shimmer over the top, yes, you could make it shiny looking, but I feel like it loses its sort of neon quality, which is why I just kept that quite subtle. I also did a really subtle look using this shade here all over the lid. So it's this twinkly sort of yellow topper effect. I just did that really, really lightly, just as a bit of a twinkle, and I used this one as a bit of a sort of liner effect. So that one's a lot more nude. So I've gone all over the place. I've done some bold looks, I've done some subtle looks. I think this is a really fun palette and the quality of all of them was really nice. I think the shades that really impressed me the most, I loved this one. I think this shade is so unique and so beautiful, and it is one that you can sort of wear, whether you wear it as a liner, whether you wear it on the outer corner, whether you wear it as a pop, whether you wear it all over, because it's got that purple berry base. It actually makes it a lot more wearable than just a bright red, and it's really, really interesting. It also catches like orange in some lights. I don't know if you can see it in the mirror there. So it is a bit of a duochrome interesting shade. I also love this green just simply because that color that you're reflecting in the mirror is one of my favorite colors of all time. So to have this sort of more grassy green shimmer that you'd consider to be a little bit more wearable, and then you get this flash of bright emerald. I think it's stunning. This to me is sort of like one of those palettes that I'd reach for to add a pop of color, add a bit of texture, add something fun if I want to elevate my look. Yes, there are some everyday options here, like this combo is probably one that I would reach for, you know, any day of the week. But for me, this is a bit of a slightly out of your everyday comfort zone palette, but fun and really easy to use, and some really beautiful effects in there. There's a lot of pros here. The formula is really lovely to use. I think the difference in textures of the shimmer is really great. Sometimes there's palettes out there, and Glaminatrix has done this themselves, where they will stick to a similar sort of formulation for the shimmers, whereas here you've got a lot of different things. You've got toppers, you've got sheer ones, you've got some that have a different base color and then a beautiful different reflect. You've got some sort of multi-chrome ones. Like, it's quite fun. So there's a lot going on here in terms of variety and different textures you can get. I personally think that this palette is probably for your intermediate or advanced eyeshadow users. Like, the formula most people can use, but I feel like even the pairings is a little bit challenging. It does look deceptively simple. Like, they've got the quad, and you're like, okay, I want a green look, I use the quad. I want a warm look, I use the middle quad. I actually don't think it's that easy, because if you do stick to just the quad, I feel like it's quite challenging not to make it look almost costumey. So I feel like the best way to use this is actually jumping and like using the oranges with the grays, or the purples with the grays, or the greens with the whatever. Like, I feel like you have to sort of mix and match, and it takes a bit more of a trained eye to do that effectively. So I think this is a fun palette, but I don't think it's necessarily a beginner friendly palette. I also want to point out that they've brought back the bigger pans. So for a while they switched to these smaller pans, and they did that so they could have more variety and keep the cost lower, but they started out with these bigger pans and they've come back to them, which is interesting. So I feel like they're giving the sort of everyday makeup user what they want, but they're also leaning into the people that are a little bit more advanced, that take their eyeshadow a little bit more seriously, because often what those eyeshadow enthusiasts like to do is depot and change things around, and you can't do it when you've got a palette of different sizes, whereas this is your standard sort of like MAC single eyeshadow size. So even though all the palettes are depotable, this one you can tell they're really sort of giving people the freedom to do that, and it will mix and match with a lot of your standard sized eyeshadow pan palettes. I want to point out that they also did that with their most recent palette, so the Grounded palette or the Tones of Turd palette. It also has those bigger pans, which is good because these two palettes actually work really beautifully together. I can see myself sort of mixing and matching these because the shades work so well together and they have a similar color story. These ones don't have little grooves in them, so you will need like a magnet to pop them out. But this last palette, when I did my review, I did talk about it being more of your makeup enthusiast palette because the textures are a little bit more delicate, a little bit more work to use, but the effect was stunning. And I feel like this is a continuation of that. So I feel like these pair really nicely together. In saying that though, I do want to compare some of these shades because, like, for example, the way I described these two, they're very similar. It's got like a purpley base with this sort of red shift, purpley base with red shift, just more intense. We've got these greens that are very similar. We've got some dark greens that look quite similar. So I'm going to do some comparisons so you can see what the differences are. I'm going to start with the mattes. So I'm going to go in with this matte and this matte. They are different, but they're also very similar. So Bonfire and Grounded, that's too similar. That's too similar for me. Smoke and Aligned, very similar. Smoked and Aligned. Bonfire is just a lot more pigmented. Aligned from Grounded just need to pick up a bit more, but otherwise the effect is very similar. Evergreen and Patience. Oh, this is a lot softer, this one down here. So this one's a lot firmer. It's a little bit more blue toned. But again, the effect on the eye will be very similar. The shimmers are quite different. I would say maybe Cinder and Whole. I'm just touching them really gently. They have a similar sort of finish to them, but a different reflect. So one is a little bit more silvery and one is a little bit more sort of bronzy. So similar effect, similar texture, but different color. But the one I'm most interested in is Blaze up here, which is this one. It's got this vibrant sort of reddy orange shift, and Calm. Now I know that these are different, but I just want to show you that they have a similar effect to them. So when I blend this out, it's got this beautiful vibrant red with a purple base. And then when I blend this out, it's got this beautiful sort of orangey red thing with a blue base. So they are different, but you can see how they do have a similar sort of formulation, I would say. Different finish, but similar formulation. And I'm just actually going to swatch really gently the greens, because there are greens in each palette, and I'm going to touch this. This is a lot more of a sort of, you got to be very gentle with this palette. So I like to tap rather than to swipe, but you can see that these greens, they fall into the same sort of color category, but they're very different textures. So that one is Embers. This is Solid, which is more of a, like, it's got this almost like neon green base to it. And then this beautiful sort of pink shift, really pretty. And Secure is the marbled one. So this one has a bit of a blue iridescence to it as well, but they are very different. But they do have a similar green effect, just very, very different. I'm seeing this as emerald, I'm seeing this one as blue, so they do have this multi-chrome sort of vibe going on as well. But yeah, similarities are in the mattes in my opinion. While we're here comparing, I do want to compare this shade to this shade, because I really like this Kaleidos Venus Trap shimmer shade. So it's this, again, this sort of dispersed sparkly silver. And if you put it on, it's just like maybe a tiny bit of a grey base colour, but it's this really dispersed glitter. I just want to compare it to Cinder, which is a lot more bold, but if we do blend it out, so I'm just taking the excess and blend it out, it gives a similar effect. Not quite the same, but a similar effect. This one's got smaller particles, this is bigger particles, and you can see that that is a lot more bold when it's swatched fully. So in light of the swatches, I do think that it has too many mattes that are very similar to the palette they just released. The shimmers are very different, but the mattes give a similar vibe. Yes, there's other shades that take this into a different direction, but I feel like these two shades and that shade, it's just too repetitive. And even though I understand the inspiration of this, they're drawing inspiration from a bonfire, like outside the trees and the sort of earth as well, I feel like that if I was talking about expectations set based on this packaging, I don't think this should have greens in it. That's all I'm going to say. I like the greens. I suit green, so I love a grungy green, but I do feel like there's a lot of grungy greens happening in Glaminatrix palettes recently, and I feel like this should have been leaning more into more warm tones. So more oranges, more bright reds, maybe raspberry reds, I don't know. But I feel like this palette, it should have really hit me as a fiery warm palette. And I feel like the green makes it too similar to the other one that they released. One thing that the green is also doing in here is I think it's dividing the customer. So what I mean by that is I feel like people that suit this often don't suit this, and vice versa. I feel like this is a great supporting shadow effect, but you're going to find people that really suit reds and really suit oranges that don't suit this, and the other way around. So I feel like if I lent into the fire inspiration and went more in depth with the reds here, this would probably sit a little bit in my head better in their recent collection. Whereas as it is, I think it's getting a bit muddled with their last palette, and it's dividing the audience with this. So if you do really love their last palette, this does complement it. There are some overlaps. If you looked at this palette and thought, I need something brighter, this is what you have. But I just wish that Bonfire went well into the bonfire. Even if reds and oranges don't necessarily suit me, I can respect it more as a fire inspired palette. I think the greens, but I feel like there should have been a forest palette that was like getting into the lush greens and the cool, you know, multi-chrome greens and whatnot. And then the bonfire palette that was just leaning heavily into the fire. Quick update, I just found out that this palette is sold out currently, and they're not 100% sure if they're going to restock it. They are running a poll on Instagram, so if you want it, let them know, and they'll probably look at getting it restocked. But I just thought I'd let you know. This one is still available. The Tones of Turd version is being discontinued, so that was just a limited run, but this grounded palette is still available. So that's that update. So let me know if you picked up the Bonfire palette. What do you think about it? I think they're fun. I do think it's fun. I think it's a good mix between, you can have some wearable shades, you can amp it up, you can make things smoky, you can make things grungy. I think that is a fun element to it, but I just would have loved to see like a really pow, in your face, unapologetic warm tone palette, and I feel like this, to me, missed the mark a little bit. It is still a standalone great palette, but I think it is a little bit too similar to their last palette. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on this palette. Let me know what your thoughts are. Did you pick it up? Did you pick up the grounded or tones a turd? Are you gonna wear them both together? Are you gonna depot them and mix and match? Let me know. Let me know. But I want to see a true sort of red-orange palette from Glaminatrix. I also want to see a purpley palette. So if you did want to check out these palettes, I will have the link to the Glaminatrix website in the description box, as well as my code. A big thank you to the Glaminatrix team for sending this out to me. It's always a fun day when I get to open up a Glaminatrix palette and I'm like, oh, I don't know what's going to be in there. Also, a big thank you to my members for supporting this channel. Have a fantastic day and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.